Is a financial success part of your business strategy, and does that connect to continuous improvement? If it doesn't, it should. Today's guest, Sharon Ross, has a background in finance and a background in continuous improvement that have come together to be able to share with you some great insights and lessons around strategy, financial motivation, and business success. Welcome to Mic Drop, Insights and Lessons from CI Thought Leaders. My name is Gary Cox. I am your host. I'm also the author of the book, Cultivating Champions of CI, a leader's toolbox for creating a continuous improvement culture. Today's episode is filled with nuggets. Let's jump into what Sharon has to share.
Folks, a little bit about you and your background, and now your company, because you're now a sole proprietor and have your own company. So tell folks a little bit about that.
So I just last year I finished up 23 years in the aerospace industry, where first I entered in the finance arena and set up the credit facility and set up the business to be able to deal with international customers all around. And that was a really good launch pad for improvement, because when you start from nothing, I was able to create policies and procedures, and I was able to look at, how do we actually get the right data to tell us the stories of what's going on in terms of our cash, and customer focus started there. That is the key, is to make sure that you're empathetic to the customer's situation, but still prudent. And so that was a really good launch pad. And when your company at the time, it was Atlantic Turbines, when they started to look at bringing in Six Sigma and lean methodology, and I was, a new leader in the company, I was introduced to it, and I just, caught the bug. I was like, this makes so much sense. Why isn't everyone doing this? So I was able to then transition out of finance into a facilitator role for a few years, where we were doing rapid improvement events in the right way and also in the wrong way.
You know what? That's really interesting. I guess I never really made that connection with you, that you had that finance kind of background before you got into continuous improvement. Let's just touch on that for a minute, because so much of the benefits associated with, continuous improvement are measured in terms of dollars, right? And so I often talk about the need for a money belt. You got green belts, black belts, you need a money belt, somebody who's just really understands the business acumen of how you connect improvements and measure those improvements in the form of financial gain, right, for the organization. To talk a little bit about how you brought those two together, that's kind of cool.
Well, I'll just go a little bit deeper on that, because I've been the treasurer my whole career of every volunteer organization I've ever worked with. The financial part of it is so important to me, and making sure that everything is well accounted for, and that, you have good information for quick decision making, and that everything is fully transparent. And so I end up just got into that role because I care so much about those things being done correctly. So I had a really strong foundation with finance. It was probably one of the things that gave me a bit of an edge in that understanding how our efforts would flow through the business. And of course, we all know there's hard savings, there's soft savings, there's cost avoidance. And there's a lot of effort gets put around those calculations. I think I was able to bring to it the common sense way in which we would actually not go too far with trying to figure out, how much we have to be able to see the traceability to the bottom line. And then, but it's not the only thing that matters either, because I'm a finance driven person and I'm high accountability that way, but I'm a really people driven leader. And so I always would try to balance. When we had time savings were often, soft. We were reallocating that labor to something more value added in the business. Sometimes people don't like to hear that. They like to see that big number of time savings calculated. But I'm okay to say, we've saved 45 hours a month on this and our average cost. And so we can put a dollar on that. But keep in mind, we've kept that person in the business. So it's not a hard savings. So when you're capturing hard savings and soft savings.
If you're getting value out of this episode of Mic Drop, Insights and Lessons from CI Thought Leaders, be sure to like, subscribe, add your comments. I'd love to hear them.
And cost avoidance is the one that, people get especially worked up about, because you're measuring risk. You're not measuring something that's actually real in a lot of the cases. You're mitigating against something that could be disastrous. And so sometimes in my career, I've been unpopular for being so disciplined about how you actually measure the savings, because there was times when, there was one particular culture that I worked in where they did make the claims of like, we saved $3 million with this IT solution. And I'm like, that didn't hit our financials at all.
Right.
So I think there's a balancing act to play there to make sure that people feel that there's also a real opportunity to help people understand how the financial side of a business runs. A lot of what I will do is bring that into teaching. And we got our president to actually do sessions with all of the staff on how do we make money in this business, and how do we great. Actually and where do our profits get eroded? Because if we're not doing well financially, then we're not reinvesting in the business in terms of equipment. We're not reinvesting in terms of hiring additional people. So we have to also figure out how to tap into the motivation for people to even want to understand that, and make sure it feels okay to be, finding all that waste and reducing all that waste. And when I work with new companies that haven't done that kind of work before, that's kind of a bit of a soft step. You have to let them, feel it first, and then introduce the whole, like, here's how we're going to actually put some good, helpful math around some of this. The ability for folks to understand if it's an income statement or a balance sheet item, that's not always intuitive for even new supervisors in technical arenas and in plants. That's not something that they've necessarily understood. And so we do have to look at that, financial management for non-financial managers. That's an important topic to cover.
I really think that you've got some insights that people will really, really value about that, especially that whole point of your cost avoidance, right? I
yes.
totally resonate with that, because it's a real challenge to say that the value of this work is going to be calculated, but you're not going to see it. Right?
Yeah.
That's where the failure mode and effect analysis comes in. You look and you do your FMEA and you go, okay, these things are risks we need to manage. And so we're going to put effort towards that, and that's going to save us, because if this thing actually failed in some way, the process failed in some way, the cost could be, to your point, catastrophic. And depending if you're in the aerospace industry, it could be, life is at stake.
So that's, but it's the rationale though with cost avoidance. It's often in the quality part of the business, the quality and safety part of the business. And that's why, like, when I talk about strategy deployment and getting it right, from how does it cascade, how does it get set through, how does it get deployed, how does it get revisited through catchball, how does it actually embed balanced thinking in terms of metrics for business. So once you grasp the whole balance thinking, so you look at safety, quality, delivery, cost, people, and once you have that as something that you're always concerned about that in terms of creating a good program, then you'll always make sure that you balance. And that's where you say, okay, but, yes, we're saving costs on the cost end of it. We're often saving time on the delivery piece of it, but we're often avoiding risk on the safety and the quality end of it. It's okay, because it becomes kind of a standard way that people think. And it just takes a while to get there. But when you effectively use strategy deployment, connecting it to your daily stand-ups, they really start to understand the whole financial piece of it. It doesn't annoy people anymore after. People get frustrated when they don't understand. If change management is not effective because people haven't been communicated with enough, they haven't been consulted enough, then your resistance is higher. But it definitely helps when we're very proactive as leaders in terms of taking that top level strategy. Where are we going in 3 to 5 years? And breaking it down to those 1-year objectives. But then a lot of the times companies stop, they'll assign it to their senior leadership, but they don't actually have a mechanism to get it from their senior leadership out faithfully to every single person in the company.